So there's more to the front suspension than these parts here, and that's what I want to show you. It'd be easier with animation. Before we start with these parts, let's first start with the front subframe rails. But the subframe rails are hooked together with a K-frame. The K-frame also holds the motor mounts on it. Now, why is it K-frame? Well, I figure because it kind of looks like a K. That's why they call it that. But the cross member is also welded to the subframes. Let's bring in the body. The inner fenders are welded to the body, and they are also welded to the front rails. This is the strut bar that goes through the K-frame. Another bushing goes on the other side. And then let's bring in the lower control arm. The strut goes into the lower control arm, and the pivot bolt goes into the K-frame. Now the lower ball joint. That is bolted into the lower control arm. That's the lower ball joint, which also hooks to the steering. Then the upper control arm, and it's bolted with the cam bolts, and those mounts are hooked to the frame. And then the spindle comes in and is bolted to the lower ball joint, and the upper ball joint goes down through a hole in the spindle. Then we put the shock on. It bolts to the lower control arm. The top threads of the shock go through the top inner fender. Here comes our knuckle that's bolted to the spindle. And the backing plate screws onto the spindle. Let's remove the body for a second so I can show you a little more. On the torsion bar goes through the cross member, and it goes into the lower control arm. Which has the key in the lower control arm. I'll show you more on that later. Let's put the body back on. Now here comes our rotor. We stick the rotor on the spindle, and there's a nut that goes on there. These are brake pads, and our caliper is screwed on to the knuckle. Let's bring in the wheel. And then the front fender. And that's our front suspension. Now, let me show you a little more on the cross member, torsion bar, and lower control arm. Let's bring them out. Now, this bolt here is an adjustment bolt. You turn it and it will raise the key. That's the key. And the key will put a twist in the torsion bar. The torsion bar is like a spring, so the more you raise it, the bigger the twist you put. And then that is the pivot bolt up front. Let's put that back. And that is our front suspension. And I hope this helped. My animation was a little poor, but I hope it got the point across. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope you liked it. And next is coming up is my rear seat panel, part that goes under the rear seat and up to the trunk.